flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. At this time, we're going to suspend the county council meeting on it and go into public hearing for the 2018 Whitley County budget and solid waste budget. Jarrell, are you here?
I am.
Do you have anything to wish to add with the solid waste budget?
Not really. The Solid Waste Board has approved the budget. It's been presented. A few of you new members. This is a binding review from the county council. The Solid Waste Board sets the budget, but the county council wants to have the formality of adopting it. There's no levies, anything like that. Any questions?
Anybody from the general audience have any questions in reference to the public hearing for Jarrell or the county council? Hearing no questions, we'll go ahead with the solid waste budget.
We'll do the adoption.
In a general meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll move into the public hearing for the advertised Whitley County 2018 budget. Anybody on council have anything additional to say in reference to the public hearing? Anybody from the general audience have any questions, comments about the advertised 2018 Whitley County budget? Hearing no statements on it, we will go ahead and close the public hearing on the Whitley County 2018 budget and the solid waste budget. And then we will reopen the general county council budget. First up on the agenda is Mark Sturtevant.
Good morning, Mark.
You're going to bring them before you here, please.
Thank you.
First up, the jail outdoor recreational area. We have some issues with the structural masonry columns, as you can see in your pictures there. We had Mark and Riley, since they were in there working on the chiller project, they brought their engineer in and they looked at these columns, and they've determined that they need to further investigate what's inside of these columns. The prints do not clarify whether there are steel columns inside the concrete block columns. So they're either going to have a steel column inside here or they're poured solid with reinforcement. But what's troubling right now is the stress fractures that you see in the pictures that are vertical. That lends to believe that they're supporting more than what they really should be. This supports a 16-inch wide, 36-foot-long beam that has a steel roll-up door attached to it. So what I'm asking is that we bring Mark and Riley in. They want to open up those two columns, inspect what's inside of it, and determine whether it's structurally sound or if they need to be replaced. Now, there are some other needs to that outdoor recreational area, but this is the most immediate need that needs to be done. So you see the numbers there for Mark and Riley to come in, and they've asked that Atlas Building Services be involved. Depending on how far they have to open them up, they want Atlas Building to put those columns back together to secure them up until we determine what we're going to do with it. And what Mark and Riley will do then is give us the information we need to go and solicit estimates from contractors to repair that area.
What's the commissioner's position?
Commissioners have given a favorable pass.
I would make a motion that we approve this amount from Kim Cap.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and second. Do we have any additional discussion?
Yeah, that column, I mean, I listened to a couple of the questions yesterday, but I guess I have a couple more. That column, is it only purpose to support that beam for the overhead door, or is it have other structural purpose?
That column was designed to hold that 16-inch wide, 36-foot long beam. The overhead door and stuff was added after the fact.
Oh, so that beam has other structural purpose rather than just the door?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the only question I have.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by your right hand. Those the same.
Next up, you asked me to bring back the jail walk-in cooler and freezer refrigeration units. I'm bringing those back and asking for your support in replacing those 2 refrigeration units, 1 refrigerator and 1 freezer.
I make a motion that we approve the request for the refrigeration and freezer units as presented to us before.
The only thing I'm sorry, I did reach out and ask about the extended warranty, and those are identified on there. It would be an additional $520 if you wanted the 5-year warranty on those 2 compressors. So the total would be then $16,013.
Does your motion include the warranty?
My motion would include the warranty, yes. It's at $16,013.
I'll second.
Would you want to designate which fund that comes out of?
That's something we can take out of the cum cap, isn't it?
She's not,
Yeah.
yes. We have a motion and second on what the jail refrigeration unit. All those in favor signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same.
The next item is the Whitley County Jail water softener. It's basically as old as the building is. It's 25, 30 years old. It's no longer working correctly. There's actually 2 of them down there. One of them does not work at all, and the other one is running at about half capacity. In other words, they should treat 22,000 gallons of water. It's only able to treat 11,000. We're running about 350,000 gallons of water through that jail a month. These softeners are imperative that we keep these running to keep the equipment clean. It's destroying a lot of the kitchen equipment. We just had to replace the dishwasher booster heater at $2,500. When we took that out, it was completely full of lime.
Mark, has that water been tested
Yes.
for this? Is it able to handle the chlorine and fluoride that the city puts in the water?
Yes. This system is similar to the one we put in at work release, the courthouse, the government center.
I'm looking at it and I'm trying to figure out what the difference is in the 2 estimates. What is the difference in that $2,000?
Well,
Were you able to determine that, or that's just how it came back?
that's how it came back. Sometimes WSM comes in higher, sometimes they come in lower. Just depends on the project.
Have a request, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the amount of $17,868 for the quote from Heat Power Engineering to replace the water softener.
What was the figure you gave?
17,868,
We have
Okay.
the 3 months.
In which fund?
cum cap.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I second.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same.
The last item, gentlemen, is the courthouse tower. On August 8th, you approved that we bring in a lift to inspect the first section of the courthouse tower. We've done that, and the results came back, as you can see in your pictures. There's some extensive damage on the upper section. We're actually losing pieces of limestone, and some of the decorative rosettes have fallen off. So we've had them come in and do some estimates on what it's going to take to restore that first section. Now, this is the section that would be between the louvers, the bell tower, and then the roof line itself. It's the first section.
Mark, has this been patched once before, some of these areas?
Some of the areas have been, but it's never been extensively. It's, again, back in '06 and '12, we've done like 25% of the courthouse. So 25% of that upper section, they just hit the areas that really were in bad repair.
They would do that work pretty quickly? I mean, start pretty soon?
They could get this done this year. In fact, they're recommending that we not let it go another winter. Especially when you look at those skyward facing joints. The water's able to get in, and that's what's popping the face of the limestone off.
Sure, if it gets water in there and freezes, it's bad news.
Yes.
General cum cap's got ample funds for,
Mark, do they give you any kind of a guarantee that that tuck, or when they tuck the joints and stuff like that, that it'll stay in there?
Well, the warranty that's specified in the language is 1 year. But I can tell you from history, when we've had them in, what they're gonna do is clean the building. They're gonna remove 100% of the mortar, replace it, clean it again, and then when they're done, they're gonna seal it. I shouldn't say seal, it's a water repellent that they're gonna apply to it. That water repellent carries a 5-year guarantee, and we've had that done before, and it does last 5 years. We've had them come back and test it at year 5, and it's still repelling water.
How deep do they go into the crack when they replace that?
3/4 of an inch, which is industry standards.
When a chunk of limestone falls, where does it fall?
Right now, it's falling and just landing on our brand-new roof that we just had put on. Luckily, it hasn't put any holes in it yet.
The problem, from my vantage point, 3/4 of an inch is not very far.
They're telling me that's what the industry in tuck pointing recommends, is 3/4 of an inch. I can tell you 50,000 of this is scaffolding. There's just no way to get to that first section. We were able to get to it and inspect it with a 150-foot boom lift, but there's really no way to safely work off of that. OSHA requires that you have a second means to get off the work site if the lift were to fail. So we tried to use the window that you can crawl out in. On the fourth section, you can crawl out a window and get on the roof. But they said that wouldn't work. So we have to build scaffolding from the ground up and scaffold around this first section. Now the rest of the repair work on the tower, like the metal work around the clock and stuff, we can address that next year. It's starting to rust, it's gonna need to be addressed again, but we can do that type of work off of this lift.
Mark, are there any spots on the joints now that have failed and that are more than 3/4 of an inch void?
Yes. Some of them are cracked all the way through the entire piece of the limestone.
But they fill all that.
Yes, they'll backfill that, and then the outer 3/4 of an inch will be the mortar.
The thing that bothered me, I guess, is looking how some of this is already spalled, and 3/4 of an inch when water gets behind that, it'll just pop that mortar right out of there. When it freezes, it'll get moisture back in behind the mortar joint, and it's going again.
The
That's
mortar
right.
joint in a masonry building is only to allow moisture to escape. In other words, when the water gets behind it, it can come to a mortar joint, and the air coming across the mortar joint is what actually dries out the building. The problem with this first section is there's a lot of skyward facing limestone caps. All those caps, they're caulked, if you will. They're a urethane sealant, and those have failed and is allowing water to get in, which once it gets in there, it gets behind and starts popping the face. So really, once we address the urgent section would be the skyward facing joints. But if we're gonna do all this to get up there to do that, we might as well do the temple, because a lot of them have cracked.
Motion or request, do we want to make a motion?
I so moved. Be out at Kim Cap as well.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. We have any additional discussion? Those in favor of taking that out of CUMCAP, motion by right hand, opposed the same.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Anything else, Mark?
No, sir.
Don't come back too often.
Before we get into the next part on it, Bill Overdeer is absent today. We still have a quorum on it. He is on a trip with his wife that was paid for prior to the meeting being moved to Wednesday. I'm going to skip around a little bit. We're going to bring up the prosecutor on his request for a I see you brought your right-hand person along with you in case you stumble.
I brought my boss. Counselor, I brought my boss. We all just work from this up, Mr. Fahl. Good morning, gentlemen, lady. Here before you today, we've had some unanticipated equipment expense in our office. The good news for us is that the source of the funds to pay for the equipment that we want to add, the source of those funds are federal incentive dollars to our coordinated program. These are taxpayer funds, Whitley County taxpayer funds. These are funds that we have earned, that the 4D division, the Child Support Collection Division, has earned by virtue of their very hard work over the years. These are federal monies allocated to us. We have budgeted these monies previously. We simply haven't appropriated them within this budget. And the amount of the request, as you can see, is $6,000. It breaks down this way. We had to purchase, or we were required to purchase by the federal government, a new shredder. Because apparently, after a federal audit was conducted that we passed with flying colors, save one problem, our shredder did not shred fine enough. Apparently, the designation from the federal government has to be espionage proof and shred to a level of P7. I don't know what that means, but ours is only, our current shredder is only a P2. So the new shredder would be approximately $1,600, $1,615, I believe. And again, those would come from those 4D incentive monies. The other expense, as I explained during the budgeting process about 60 days ago, was by virtue of the e-filing change that we are now required to undertake by the Indiana Supreme Court, the 4D division was operating on 8 and 10-year-old computers. We have since explored replacing those. There has been some expense. In addition to the new computers, we've also moved to a dual monitor system. And I think that was part of my presentation to you previously. In other words, each of the 4D caseworkers has dual monitors to accommodate the new software that we're running to allow us to e-file for the Supreme Court. So when you add those two expenses together, the monitors, the new computers, the cabling, and now this P7 level shredder, the amount that we're asking you to appropriate within our budget is $6,000. Again, the source of those funds are the prosecutor incentive monies. Happy to answer any questions.
Your request, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the request.
I'll second.
Motion is second. Do we have any additional discussion? Those in favor signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Judge Fahl, I believe you were up next.
Thanks. Before Mr. Sigler leaves, I want you to know the reason I'm here is it's his fault. I can say I'm truly glad to be here. I'm glad to be back. Just to make it quick, what I'm asking for is a transfer resolution to move some money from my pauper attorney and appeals fund over to contracted services. To give you a little background, what I'm trying to do is I need to hire a temp. When I came back, we've had a significant increase in our criminal filings. As all of you know, whenever the state says they're going to give authority back to the local governments, what they really mean is they're going to dump stuff back to us. They've significantly rewritten the criminal code. And my cases, I'm almost at the same number of cases as 1 September this year, criminal cases alone, that we were the last 2 years. When I got back, Laura was just packed. She was 4 weeks behind on orders. Along with that are the e-filing requirements that we have to do, the new abstracts. Even though we don't send a lot of felony offenders downstate, most of them stay here locally. My staff now, based on a change made by the state a couple of years ago, requires a full abstract to be done on every defendant. On top of that, we've also got the new e-filing. So my criminal staff is just simply swamped at this point. I've had to work some overtime to try to get caught up, but that simply hasn't eliminated the problem. It just put a Band-Aid on it for a short time. So we've got some money left over because of the way we structured our public defenders for the last couple of years. So what I'm asking is to transfer that over so I can bring a temp person in, put Tammy and Laura strictly on criminal, and then let that temp person assist Michelle and Deb in the civil section. So we've got the money in that fund. I'm just asking now to transfer it over to give us some relief on the criminal side.
We have a request for a transfer resolution. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve it.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same. And welcome back.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You guys have a great day.
Take care.
Skip around a little bit. Tad Varga and Mark Green.
I've seen guys stand here and over there, so I was making sure where to go, so, but, you sit next to
Sure.
Chad? Sounds good. So Mark and I were here, we've been in here probably, I think this is probably our 4th time. So hope you guys aren't getting sick of us. When we were here a couple weeks ago, we presented to the county commissioners regarding the Aquatic Center. At that point, when we came in, we had raised about almost $4.3 million here locally within the region to build a facility. And I'm just going to give you some background in case you guys aren't aware of it. We received our bids and they came in over that amount. The good news is we were able to bridge the gap and come up with a little more funding. We had some value-added things that we took out of our original plans. So we were able to break ground last week on the Aquatic Center, which is really, really exciting for this community. When we had approached council before, we were asking just for some financial help. So for the, you know, the property and for the facility, so there would be level fees for families that are outside the city. So those fees would be the same as families that are within the city limits. And, you know, nothing ever really happened with that. And then we came back a couple weeks ago just asking for some additional funds, again, because we had a shortfall based on the bids that came in. But now, since we were able to bridge that gap of the funding that we needed, now we wanted to come back in and present, asking, we're still looking for funds for a couple of items that we are really, was part of our original plan. Then I'm going to pass out, actually, if you want to just pass those down. Sure. One of the things in our original plan was a pavilion that families or organizations could utilize for events, parties, different types of functions. Now, this drawing here, there's a company logo on the front of it. That's just, we've presented this to a number of different companies, so that's not what the pavilion will be, but just to show you kind of what it would look like. We still have pending presentations out to a number of different companies for funding of this. So the cost to build this particular part of the facility was $190,000. And when we presented to commissioners a couple of weeks ago, we are asking for $200,000 to help, you know, with the funding, particularly for this part of the project. We have come up with about half of that amount, it looks like is going to be coming in, which is great for us, but again, in order to build it, we still need the other half to come in. And so what we wanted to do is to ask the county council if they would be willing to help split that difference, so we could go ahead and build that portion of the facility. So about half of what we are initially asking. And for that amount, again, we would make the fee structure level with the city residents. So, for example, right now, a family within the city limits to have an annual or to have a pool membership for that season is $200, where the fee for an out-of-city family will be $300, well, which is a pretty significant amount of change. But if the county council were to invest in this, then we would make those fees level, both city and county residents. And I know you guys are going to be going into budgets. I don't know exactly when. And I understand. I mean, I'm a city council person. I get it. You know, trying to find funds and doing the shell game, trying to move things around to make it fit with projects that are upcoming. But even if this was something that you could do and spread out over a 10-year time period, would be something that we would, you know, we would work with you on that. So if it was a $10,000 per year for 10 years, we would, you know, we would just call it even then, and we would make that fee structure the same. Therefore, it wouldn't be such an economic impact on your budget in one lump sum for the year, but it'd be spread out over time. So, but yeah, that's kind of what we're looking for. And you know, again, we would love to be able to partner with the county on this. Again, we've already raised a significant amount of money. It'd be great if we could have the county's involvement on this. We can take any questions you guys have on it.
The commissioners heard this. Did you have a recommendation?
We didn't provide a favorable position on this. And I think you can see with the paperwork that I gave you, plus what Mark has hit us with in the last 2 weeks here, it's just we didn't feel it was proper to do something like that at this time.
If we were to entertain the idea, where would that money come from for us?
General? See that?
Either one of those, yes.
And I will say, at that time, we were asked for the 200,000,
Yeah.
and not in a 10-year period, it was just
Yeah.
asked for.
We're just so close that, you know, if we could get your help on this, we really think we'd be able to bridge that gap. Our budgets have changed a lot in the last week and a half with what's transpired in the favor of the aquatic center, so.
We've had a request, do we have a motion?
I see this as a quality of life project that I think would benefit a lot of the county residents, and I think at a $10,000 contribution from the county, that I guess if I do turn this into a motion, I can't say that I would want to get into any kind of a guarantee for $10,000 next year. And I know that's not what you guys are asking for, because you're talking about, you know, if we get on board with this, making the rates for the county people who want to come in the same as city people. So I know you're wanting a 10-year commitment, but I think we would have to take it year by year. But I guess at this point, I would make a motion that we make a $10,000 contribution with the information from you that would hold any county resident to the same price of $200 as a city resident would be, and that we would look at it on a year-to-year basis as far as making the additional $10,000 contributions in future years. That would be my motion.
Would you indicate which fund that would come out of?
I don't want to take, I wouldn't take it out of county general. What are our other option?
CETA.
CETA?
What do we have in CETA?
As of today, it's 724,000.
But you've got to remember, a lot of that is
Just-
committed.
Committed already?
Do we know how much is not committed?
There's still 228,000 that hasn't been spent for this year. That is going to be spent.
It is going to be spent? So there's no money available in CETA?
No, 228,000 that will still be spent this year, and there's a balance of 700 and whatever I just said, thousand.
Oh.
So,
Well, then that would be my motion that it comes from there.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it, just for discussion.
We have a motion and a second, do we have any additional discussion?
I'm not a big fan as far as city and county relations, as far as the the county kids coming to town to at a water park. I don't know whether if Whitley County's big enough to support this park, or, you know, I know we give a lot of money to other different things that I don't agree with, but we still do it. So I think I would be in favor of looking at it kind of like Thor does. I would take it year by year if the city's willing to do that. See how it works out. And I'd like, if it does pass, I would like to see, and I know it'd be hard to maybe keep track, but it'd be interesting to see just how many county kids would be using that.
Sure.
I think you could track that by the, what do you get,
Yeah, so just so I also coach swim in the wintertime, and just to give you a ballpark idea, on our team, we have about 78 kids that swim for us in the wintertime, I would say probably 70% of those kids are from the county, not the city. And this would probably, this team, just for the competitive swim team, would have a very, very similar makeup and percentages as the winter. So I would say the vast majority, at least for the competitive swim side, would be more county kids, and all those would have to have memberships as opposed to kids who live in the city. Just to give you some basis. We have a significant amount of families who live outside of the city limits who use at least the YMCA facility for swimming specifically. And the state of Indiana, whether, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this or not, is one of the top 5 swim states in the entire country, which most people in our area are not familiar with that. Some of the fastest swimmers in the world are actually, we had 3 Olympic gold medalists from Indiana the past Olympics in swimming. So even though it's not very well known in Whitley County, if you go to Fort Wayne, I mean, it's significant. I went to swim meets at Fort Wayne where there were 1,200 swimmers just from northeast Indiana. Not a lot from Whitley County, but it's a huge, huge sport. And you know, I think just in the Carmel, Noblesville, Fishers area, they've already built 2 new aquatic centers just to attract talent. And that's one of the reasons we're looking at this facility to attract talent and retain talent in this area. So it's a very important thing. And like Thor said, quality of life, it's significant also, not just from a competitive swimming, but from a social swimming aspect. So.
Is this an indoor or an outdoor facility?
No, this is not. This is just an outdoor facility. And it'll have a competitive pool, but it'll also have slides similar to like a water park, a mini splash pad area, concession stand. It'll be similar to, there's a pool in Fort Wayne called Jury Pool that they did a similar project like this, I think it's probably 3-4 years ago. Yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any additional discussion?
I'd have just kind of a comment. I just question whether Councilman Hodges would have a conflict being he's a city employee, voting on funds for the city. We don't have an attorney here, so I guess that's just a...
Point well made. Any additional discussion or comments? Those in favor of the request signify by your right hand. Those opposed, the same. All right, we have a 3-3 tie, stalemate. And does not pass for a lack of majority.
Good. All right, thanks.
Sheriff Gatton.
All right, well, moving back for me, back for the amendment of 2 salaries. First, I'd like to start with the amendment for Jody Hollenball, which would be Account System Coordinator. Back on March 10th, the E911 Director's position, which was eliminated, which he also did most of the IT work in the building that he could. The job duty and responsibilities were distributed to current employees. Jody is the employee taking on the Information Technologies position for the former E911 Director duties. Back in May, I came after they went to the Personnel Committee, came back in July, it was passed, and then last month it was taken away due to the number of Jody's position being wrong. The request for her job increase per year is $7,417. Her salary right now for the job she's doing would be $41,912, and the request for it to go up to $49,329.
We have a request for salary ordinance change. Do we have any discussion or motion?
I think for me, I'm a firm believer, if you add additional responsibilities, then there should be some form of additional compensation. I don't think I'm in favor of this amount of increased compensation. And part of that maybe because I just don't have a full understanding of what tasks or what essential duties the employee took on. So maybe you could talk about that a little more and just explain
Okay.
what maybe some of the essential duties were before and what they are now, and maybe if any of those duties went away when she took on the new additional duties, or if she kept, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Jody's here, she can probably come up and answer some questions. She's still in charge of the front office area, so no duties went away from her from that job. She took on a lot more responsibility for the in-car computers, installing all the software on them, keeping them up to date. She does, how many computers do we have in the building now?
69.
69 computers now she's taken on inside the building to do maintenance. And there are things, if she can't, complete herself, she'll call the company we're contracted with, and most of the time they can talk us through, or talk her through, what needs to be changed. What's some of the other duties you picked up?
Adding new users. Anytime anybody's hired, they have to set up their email accounts. We're not with the Whitley Gov, we're on our own domain. So we have to set those up. I also take care of all of the cards for the county. I take care of the phone system for the county. Anytime anybody moves offices, I reassign the phone numbers or set up the phone numbers if somebody's hired in. It's not just our department that I'm taking care of too.
These duties that you just described, are they additional duties with...
Honestly, I've been doing them forever.
So that no increase?
Well, not computer work increase.
Scott and I did.
The computer work.
I should say Scott and I did those things for years and years and years. And then when he left, it's only me. So.
Time-wise, your additional duties from Scott's position being eliminated on it would be what percentage of your day?
Well, that's tough to call because there's always things. Probably 50%.
And she's had a lot more after-hour work
Yeah,
now.
I'm on call 24/7. I'm shopping in Fort Wayne and I have to take a computer with me everywhere I go so that I can connect and fix things.
So 50% of your day now is just on responsibilities that you absorbed from Scott's position?
Well, Scott and I shared those duties. It wasn't like he was the only one doing them. I never was really acknowledged, I feel, for what I did do.
So some of it you were doing, you were sharing it. Because, I mean, when you say 50% of your day is spent on that, then, of course, the first question that pops into my mind is, how could you have that much time from the position that you had before, as far as your office administrator's job and supervising the people that you supervise? How could you take on that much if it takes that much of your time?
Because I was already doing it.
And she loses a lot of time. Thor, you'll understand this, most of them won't. The computers in the car, if something goes wrong, most of the guys that work the road don't have a lot of knowledge to fix or repair anything in their computer. So a lot of times if it's with the printer, Jody goes to the garage with them and goes out and leaves her duties up front because it's easier to try to fix it in the car than for you to pull all your equipment and come inside. So she's out in front of the building quite a bit with the guys.
They've come to my house before.
I've not been against a raise on these additional responsibilities from the start. I just thought that what it was passed out, what it was asked for was too much. I will support a raise on it. But I'm with Chad, as I don't know that 17% increase is, I can't go along with that. I would support a raise, but not at the 17% mark. I think that you have taken on, and you were probably put in a position where you didn't necessarily know that it was coming, and you've had to do some things on the fly, and I get that. I just don't know that the $7,400 is appropriate.
Is there anyone else coming up, or anybody else that you've maybe identified that can help share that responsibility with Jody?
No, not in the IT portion of it. I guess I would still request the 74. I mean, we eliminated, or a job was eliminated from the county that was making 58,262, and I'm asking for 30% between two employees of the duties that are continued from that job position. And the money that's being asked for from Janelle comes from 911 funds that wouldn't affect the direct county money.
We have a request, and we've had a considerable discussion of the amount of money and percent. Do we have a motion and including a percentage raise?
No, we've had a lot of discussion about the factoring system, the pay system that we're looking at adopting. I think at this point, I'm in favor, and I'll make a motion for a 3% increase in compensation. And then I want to look at this closely when we bring in our new factoring system, when we bring in our whatever system we're going to use to determine pay scales. So my motion is for a 3% increase in pay.
Is it the commissioner's position that you guys are going to push forward with that new evaluation system?
We put that on hold at this point with the situation we have with the HR director. We're trying to decide what we're going to do with that position.
Can I ask, you guys want to change theirs, but since theirs has been shot down, there was a job that was given what the personnel committee requested after theirs was released. So I'm asking, why are these two employees being singled out? The personnel committee may not have been right, and Kim, you and I talked about that when I was on it with you, but that's the system that was in place when these two jobs were passed. And these will be the first two county employees that don't receive what the personnel committee asked for. I know you have that right, but I also have another issue that the county council combined two jobs for Brandon and gave him 66% of the pay of the other job. I'm asking for 30% for the same duties that somebody made $58,000 for. And I truly believe we're getting a deal and a business structure for it, because if I pay for IT services outside, or Janelle doesn't do the 911 duties. The same job that Scott used to do for 58, she's doing pretty much the same, and they give us $400,000 a year, and Janelle's putting in information that is vital to every citizen in this community. If somebody moves or a new phone number comes in, that's the 911 director's job. The same comparable jobs at the city make $10,000 more a year, and they don't have the 911 director title added to them.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion for the 3% increase with evaluation to be done when the new evaluation system is put in place in this position, and to then reconsider what that evaluation says towards that job title. Was that your motion?
Yes.
We have a motion and second. We have any additional discussion? Those on council that are in favor of the motion signify by your right hand. Those opposed, the same.
Can one of you just honestly answer why these two employees are the only ones that haven't followed that when there's been employees afterwards that have gotten raises and new jobs?
I'm not familiar with who they are, but I know there was at least one other employee where we did not move forward with the increase.
I guess I'm in the same position, Mark. I'm consistent from when I came on. Maybe it's not consistent from the examples that you're talking about in the past. But I think that our system for evaluation that we had in place has been in place for too long, and it's outlived its usefulness, and that's why I'm encouraging and asking the commissioners to come forward with the new evaluation system so we can get it into place and have an evaluation system that I think is going to work better for us. And I'm maintaining that I have been consistent from my 9 months on council.
You have a second position you want to present?
Janelle Schmitz, 911 director, to go from 48,245 to 580,262, which is what the old 911 director made. And that money would come out of the 911 funds.
Would you do the figures again?
48,245 to 58,262.
Your title now is currently the Director of Communications.
Yeah.
Same question that I asked for Jody is for Janelle. What percentage of her 7.5 hour day has changed with the additional duties?
Janelle?
Probably about 35%. Roughly 35%. It's a little more now. We're trying to get our computers squared away. They're a mess and stuff. So I spend a lot of my day doing that. Roughly 35% with budgets, the MSEG, which is when somebody moves or gets a new phone number, that comes through me. If it doesn't get inputted right, that 911, it doesn't know where to go. That call doesn't know where to go. I'm also on call 24 hours a day. Get called many times in the middle of the night for something that goes down, or Thursday night into Friday morning, I had a sick employee, so I came in at 2 o'clock in the morning and worked a 12-hour shift to cover.
With the additional Spillman program on it, what additional jobs, work, has that worked out?
We put every new employee in, all the background setup was us. Spillman assisted, but we have to keep that database up.
Any discussion before we call for a motion?
Again, with this job and the new responsibility, I'm not against a pay increase, Janelle. I just don't know that 20% is appropriate. And again, it falls back on my indifference with the evaluation process and how it got forwarded in the first place.
Can I ask a question? That's the system that you have in place. You haven't ever gotten rid of it, and you haven't gotten a new one. So why are we different?
Is that question directly to me?
Anybody that wants to answer.
You're not different in the fact that I've been consistent with my evaluation of these pay increases from January when I came on council, so I don't feel as I'm being inconsistent with my decision on that. I think that the system is, again, was in place for too long, and We've been told, I've been told, since before I even come into office in January, that there was a new system that was being evaluated and that was going to be implemented, that it was ready to be implemented, that it was going to be brought to council. So with that being said, I think that we need the new system, and evaluating the positions that have been brought to us, I've been consistent on each decision I've made.
Mark, I think you and I have talked several times about the Personnel Committee. And I've been sitting on it now going on 9 years. And the 9 years that I've sat on it, I've gradually seen how the increases from the job description went. And I've said, and you
spoke
compare,
about it, yeah. We spoke.
you and I agreed that there was something going on that wasn't quite right with this grading system. And I don't, my problem is, I don't have a problem with people getting a raise, but when you take a description and make that description write it so that person can get an outlandish raise, there's something broke with the system. And I think we all agree with that. I mean, I don't think there's one person in here who wouldn't like to make all the money they can make. But and the bad thing about it is, the two people now that we're talking about, it's bad because it's happening. We're trying to stop the train. The train's running away, and we're trying to figure out how we can slow it down until we get something better in-house. I just think, I personally think a 30 or 35% raise is unheard of. And I'm not saying they're not doing their job. I think everybody in Whitley County is doing a great job. I just think we need to put a stop to it right now and get something in place that everybody's happy with and try to go on. But I can't support that kind of raise, Mark. I just can't. And it has nothing to do with the people that are involved.
I just struggled that a $58,000 a year job was eliminated, and I'm trying for $17,000 to do that same job.
And I understand that. My bad thing about that is that if that job was so important, I guess, why did we eliminate the job?
Wasn't my employee, Kim.
Everybody's trying to throw it back on council. I just want to know if it was that important, why did we eliminate it?
I'm not going to speak on behalf of others, and I'm not throwing it back on you. There's a lot more to that job now, I see, than what I did before. That wasn't being done, that needs to be done now.
And I understand that, and I'm full in agreement that I think it needs to be like a 3% raise. But I also am in agreement with, when we get the new system in, I would like to be, these two positions, be the first ones in line to get regraded.
I hear and appreciate that, but I'm still fighting for them because I feel that's my job. That was a system that was still in place as council had not removed it. The day that they were shot down, Jana asked for a position that was never taken to the committee. Was Tamala's taken? Hers wasn't taken, and it was passed and given the money of a full-time employee. That's my gripe that day. And it's nothing against you or any of your employees. But that didn't even go through the system that was in place, and the money was approved. So it hurts, I'll be honest, it hurts.
But the thing of it is, Mark, we sat in there on the personnel committee, and we sit there, and it's brought in front of us. We grade it just to grade it. I think another thing that's wrong, I think the personnel committee got too powerful. It should have never went that way. Only thing we do is grade it. It's a recommendation to the county. Being on the county council, the best thing I could do is just walk away from personnel committee and not grade anybody. Because we look at the whole picture. We got to look at whether we can fund that particular job or whatever. But it's just out of control right now, and I'd be in favor of them being the first two when we do get something in line.
One of the things,
Go ahead.
one of the things that goes through my mind, they deserve something for the extra work they're doing, there's no doubt about that, but I would not, when we come up with a new way of grading people or whatever, I would not want to have to take money away because of the way because then you really have disgruntled employees bad then.
Well,
So,
you kind of have disgruntled employees
I
now
understand- yeah, I
because you
understand
took it
that.
away from them after it passed 4-3. And it was on my mistake that it didn't pass. It was me that transcribed a number from a 4 to a 9. I can't, I'll be honest, I can't wrap my head around how it's a system that was still in place and you've never taken it out to this date or put a stop and said, we're not going to listen or recommend. And these will be the only 2 county employees in the history of that system that didn't get what was recommended. I know it's a recommendation, but how do you think those 2 feel being the only 2 county employees that didn't get what was recommended from the Personnel Committee?
Well, and Mark, it's a struggle, it really is, because I think this whole situation has created a lot of misfeelings between council and your department. But we are looking at a budget right now to where we're having to fund, or not having to fund, we're trying to come up with a way that we can fund and give everybody in the county a raise to support and offset that 27th check or to cost of living increase or whatever. And we really have less money right now to work with than what we're being told our operating capital should be if we flatline our budget. So when we know that we have issues like, when I know that I have issues like that I'm struggling with, my conscience won't, it says a recommendation. So I take that as the leeway that I have to be able to weigh out giving 2 employees that kind of a raise and then telling the rest of the county employees that there's not money there for a raise, or that it's going to be a very minimal raise. And that's why, there is additional responsibilities there. And that system, I think, the way Kim put it, is kind of the words maybe I've been looking for since I came on too. It's kind of you're exactly right. It's a slope that we've been on, and we're trying to get back in control of it because the raises aren't looked at as appropriate by the people who are responsible to the taxpayers for making those decisions on how we're spending their tax dollar.
But her job is not tax dollars. Just like you guys cut on her budget, that's not tax dollars. That's the state funded that the 911 director gets for Whitley County.
And only one of the positions you're requesting affects the county general, and that was the one that we just acted on with Jody. Her funds come completely out of the 911 funding, correct?
Yeah. And I won't deny it. Kim and I did have those talks on multiple occasions, sitting right about there. But my point trying to be, what you guys have heard, is that's a system that you've never in a meeting said we're going to stop having, and it was passed and it was taken away. And if you don't think it's affected my whole department, because never in the history that I can find on any paper or meetings, anytime there was a mistake by a number, whether it would be the department head or somebody else, it was an amendment, not a takeaway from the employees that earned it.
And my motion for that to be rescinded was myself making a statement that I disagreed with it the month before, and that I still disagreed with it that month. And that was, I had hoped that I would get a second on it. I certainly didn't know that it would be a 6-1 vote. I can't control that, Mark. I was making a statement, and that's the way I felt that should have been addressed. I fully expected you at that point to present the information and make the request, and quite honestly, I thought that I had no idea other than the fact that it would probably go to a 4-3 vote again. I mean, didn't know. So I
guess
was setting
wasn't-
I was
wasn't
setting the
prepared for that
slate.
Because every other time, it's always been somebody on council says, well, I'll just make the motion that we amend the $500 difference. I by no means came in here thinking that these two employees were gonna lose. And if Jody doesn't wanna take those new positions on for 3%, then I'll have to pay for it out elsewhere. Because it's not in her job, and if she doesn't agree to it, I'm not gonna make her do them. Because again, we paid Scott $58,000 for those, and I came in here and watched Brandon Forrester, a male, get 66% of two job duties, and I can't get 30% for two people. And the $10,000 comes from not even tax dollars. I'm sorry, I just don't think it's right.
Not out of the, this tax dollars, it's not from us.
Yeah.
We have a request for a salary ordinance change for the position of Janelle. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion similar to the motion that Councilman Banks made, that there would be a 3% increase to the salary for this position, and that when the new system is implemented, that her position be looked at and reevaluated for a change at that point.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. We have any additional discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same.
I have something I'd like to bring forward too as a council, for the council to discuss. I'd like to rescind our ordinance 2000, was it 1 or 2-10?
2002-10.
2002-10, I'd like to rescind that.
Is it?
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Anybody familiar with what it is?
I'll second it to open up the discussion.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Do we open for discussion?
It's my understanding that last year's salary ordinance essentially did rescind the one from the year before and the year before that. Is that correct, Jana?
It changed some things, but it didn't rescind the actual ordinance that we used, Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy, for the factoring system.
So, the purpose of your motion then is to eliminate the evaluation process from the previous company.
That's correct.
Do you have any additional discussion? Those in favor of the motion signify by your right.
I have additional discussion. I guess my question would be then, if we do that, what system is in place for any type of job evaluations at this point? Because, George, are you guys bringing a new system to us?
Well, I think at this point, we're concerned that, you know, one of the things that we're looking at is, why do we spend the $25,000 if we aren't going to follow the process? So we put it on hold at this time to try to determine if we're just going to look at what wages are around the area. We can find that out at different places. But if we're not going to follow the process and try to equalize pay and try to retain our employees, I'm not sure that it's worth the $25,000.
Well, to answer Thor's question, it'll be the same way as it was before we ever had an evaluation committee. It'll be the county council until another system is adopted. I mean, for years, it just people brought requests in here, and we either approved it or we didn't, and that's where it goes back to until we get another system in place.
Well, what I've heard from, like I said, from day one that I come in, is that there was a new system that was going to be implemented, and I made decisions based on the fact that we were in the 11th hour of implementing the new system. The last conversation I had with you is that, you know, you were going to bring that forward, and that we were going to have a new system to look at.
And in talking to the council, it was made aware to us that
we didn't get a very good feeling from the council about that program. Yeah. So we said, you know, we're gonna walk away from it.
Well, my question to George is, George sits on the personnel committee. George, you and I had the same talk. You agreed that there was something wrong with it.
That's exactly why we started looking at a different process, because it's not a good process.
No.
You and I mean,
I know, we're all.
we've known that for a long
I don't
time.
think anybody disagrees that the process we currently have is bad. It's bad. But I don't think anybody disagrees
But
with that.
I guess there's two separate issues here. It's the process and then the pay scale that was developed. And, you know, we're looking at a bad process, but that pay scale still sits, it was developed by WIS at the time. And, you know, whether it be professional or comment, PATC comment, whatever, we were going by that process or that developed the pay scale that we had there. You know what I'm saying on that?
Maybe it's not the pay scale that we're worried or that we have an issue with. It's the job description part of it that you're not able to, you're able just to go in and write a job description, and that job description gives you a $2,000 raise just because of what it says.
Right.
That's what's broke with it.
Right.
We have to figure out a way that a job description could be written and not somehow be blowed up to where you could get it to whatever wage you want it to be.
And that's why we were looking at the third party on that, but again, I think the third party coming in and looking at the job description is a great idea. But then they're gonna make a recommendation on wages or pay scale according to what we are in the region. And we just heard that the city's paying $10,000 more for a job in the sheriff's department than what we pay. And that's what I think our concern as commissioners are, that it's going to be more than what we're paying now. Then what do we do?
One quick question, Thor. What does the city do for job evaluations? Do they have an outside company come in? They do it within the structure?
I don't have any knowledge on it. I don't know what process that they use. I'm not qualified to answer that.
I would like to see, George, is that maybe for the time being, we put a stop to, you know, to all raises until the time that the commissioners and the council can sit down and figure out a proper way that we can get something in place that we feel comfortable with.
And I think we'd be amenable to that. I don't think there'd be any issue with.
And then once we.
I want all the council people to feel that way. I want every one of them to feel like the system's broke and we gotta fix it.
I think we've already indicated that we do feel that way.
I think.
Okay, I don't get that feeling sometimes.
So, wait a minute, and I don't mean to interrupt your reading, but you're gonna penalize all the county employees because you guys can't get together? I mean, come on, gentlemen. Visit the departments, see what they're doing. Look at it, you don't need a system. We've elected you because you're smart, you're intelligent, you're hardworking, and you're good members of the community. Don't keep using the system as an excuse. Get out and visit your departments and see what they do. But to say that you're gonna put a hold on all races, with all due respect, Kim, I've been in your spot, just because the two entities can't get together, you're punishing everybody, and you're making yourselves look relatively foolish. So I'd certainly recommend that maybe a different path would be better to go. Just my input.
I would agree that I don't think that there's any reason to put it on hold. I would ask the commissioners to bring the plan to us, even today at today's meeting for the new process, and to let that be implemented and let it play out. I think there's support here to pass that. I think there's support here to pass and put that company's recommendations into place. But along with that, it still needs to be made clear that it's still a recommendation. We can't spend money that we don't have to spend. I'm not going to raise tax rates and have people paying more tax dollars to support raises to people that we can't
I think we
afford.
all understand that, Laura. I guess it's just that we don't want to throw money at the situation and not really cure the situation and take care of it. What we'd like to do is, at this point, like Jim said, anything that comes to the council, you're going to have to deal with it until we come up with the program. But that program is going to take time, and especially, we don't have an HR director at this point. And so I guess I would ask that we still, I think department heads need to deal with the, excuse me, with the job descriptions, bring the job descriptions. If the council wants to deal with it, bring it to the council and let the council decide whether, at this point, until we get the process, get everything in process, that we deal with it that way. But again, I agree with Judge Fahl. We cannot stop, and it's not raises that we're talking about. It's refactoring of jobs. It's if people have a new job or additional duties, that we have to be able to look at that and determine whether it requires a raise or not, or additional monies.
We've had a motion and a second on the floor on it. Glenn, would you repeat your motion since the additional discussion has gone through, so we are familiar with it?
My thought was we need maybe rescind 2002-10. Because I guess my thought was haven't been necessarily living by it anyway.
Your motion was seconded by Kim? By Thor. Do you have any additional discussion?
Yeah, I have additional discussion. It is still our responsibility as a council to approve reevaluations, whether we do it or whether we have a tool in place to help us with that process. None of us are experts on that. We all have our opinion, and we all gather as much knowledge as we can to make those decisions. I think $25,000 is a bargain for a company to help us with an evaluation and a refactoring system. I don't think that it's a waste of money. I think it's a bargain, especially for what we paid for the system that we are currently using that's been in place for 20 years. I think that the commissioners, I think you guys do your work, and I think that you've spent almost a year now with this process of this new evaluation company. So I would urge that to come to us. I would urge for that to be brought to us so we can pass that, get it implemented. There might be some kind of...
Or it's been brought to you before. We presented that before. And it was thrown back in our laps.
Very good feelings that day.
Okay, and I'm asking you right now. I'm asking you right now to present it.
We had the guy scheduled for today, and we had to cancel out. So.
I'm just asking for it to be presented. I don't think we need to talk to him at this point. I think you guys did your homework, and I think the process needs to be implemented. And it's going to take a while to get it.
That you wasn't going to approve it until you talked to him, you as the council.
Yeah. You weren't going to approve it until he, here. That's okay, we'll do whatever you want to do, but
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm telling you what the
That's your
history is and how we got to this point.
All I'm asking is that it be brought to us. All I'm asking is that it be put in the form of a request and asked for approval. That's what I'm asking for.
We still have a motion and a second on the floor. Any additional discussion? Those in favor of the motion signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same. Commissioners report, George.
Okay, I guess while we're on the subject, at this point, as long as council is willing to work with the commissioners to make sure that this process works, we'd like to ask that, for the approval of the MDF contract for HR services to redevelop our new system for payroll or for job descriptions. And we'd ask for your approval for the $25,000. And that will be, actually, it'll be in the 2018 budget rather than by the time we get everything in process. So there will be a lag time that we have to deal with.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the $25,000.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. You want to indicate which fund?
Come out of the general.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any additional discussion? Those in favor of the motion signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same.
Thank you. And I will tell you that we've looked at this for over a year. We've known, Kim and I have talked about it for at least a year, and that's why we've been trying to deal with it. And I think if we follow the process, it'll work.
And again, that needs to be worded in the salary ordinance that that is still a recommendation tool, and that the council still has the decision-making process on spending the tax dollar.
Right.
It's not a rubber stamp.
And it always will be that way. That's your job. The only other thing I have is Jana brought before the commissioners our holiday schedule, and I don't know if you presented that to them yet. Okay. We have a holiday schedule for 2018. It'll be 14 holidays. The 2018 will have primary election day on Tuesday, May 8th. And then Tuesday, November 6th will be a general election. And that's the only two, really. We have New Year's Day, Martin Luther King's birthday, Good Friday, March 30th, May 8th would be primary election, May 28th would be Memorial Day, July 4th is the holiday, September 3rd, Labor Day, October 8th, Columbus Day, again, November 6th, general election, November 12th will be Veterans Day, Thursday and Friday, the 22nd and 23rd of November is Thanksgiving, and Monday and Tuesday, December 24th and 25th will be the Christmas holiday. And we've approved the holiday schedule for that. We also approved county commissioners meetings for 1 p.m. on the first Monday and third Monday of every month. Other than if there's a holiday or a day off, then we'll go to the next day, which would be a Tuesday. And that's for the 2018 schedule. The only other thing I have is I've given you, all of you, some information in front of you, the facility overview that we've got from Mark Sturtevant, our maintenance director, just to let you know what we're dealing with right now. It just seems like daily we're getting information. We've got a lot of facility issues that we're going to have to deal with. You've already dealt with a lot of it today, but we have a lot more on our plate right now, to the tune of $1,368,313, and that didn't include the $139,000 or $121,000 for the courthouse. So almost $1.5 million worth of repairs, and some of them urgent. And some of them, we've got them broken down as to time frame, 1 to 2 years urgent. But just to let you know that this is an issue that we're going to have to deal with. And we just can't kick it down the road. We're going to have to deal with it. The only other thing I have is I'd like to remind you that we have a $250,000 debt out there for the health insurance yet. We'd like to take that out of CEDAT, so when you're dealing with CEDAT, please remember that at the end of the year, we'd like to pay that off also.
That's the Citizen, Star?
Yeah. And that was just renewed, we had to renew that again, but we would like to take as much as we can out of CEDAT at the end of the year to pay that off. And I think that's all I have.
George, one question.
Yes.
You mentioned something about not having an HR director.
Yes.
Don't have an HR director.
No, Pam her last day was Friday. Last Friday. So Janet has taken on a lot of the responsibilities at this point. The majority of the responsibility has gone to the auditor's office. We moved a lot of the file cabinets and everything up to the auditor's office this week. You know, we as commissioners are trying to decide where do we go from here? How do we develop that job description?
Or is there a job? We haven't really decided that there is a job.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Moving on, also in our package was a request for an amendment to a salary ordinance from probation, field officer position on it. And this is the new position that's funded by the Indiana Department of Corrections grant. Entertain a motion to approve this.
Also moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
It's a grant that's already been funded. This is just putting the salary into the salary ordinance. So the money's already there. It's just approving the position.
Is this
Motion and second. Have any additional discussion?
Is this one of those, is that continually going to be funded, or is it just one of these, for now it's funded and later it won't be, or?
In his explanation in earlier meetings on it, on there, the person that they hired was fully aware that it was a grant, and if the grant's renewed, that position could be eliminated.
Okay, thank you.
Read that position again.
Department of Probation, job title is Field Officer on it, and it's a new employee, new position funded by the Indiana Department of Corrections grant.
So they don't know what the length of the grant, just year to year, or?
It's for a year.
Right. And as I said, she explained in the previous meeting on it that the person hired in this position was well aware of the fact that that grant could be eliminated. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any additional discussion? Those in favor of the change of the salary ordinance signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same. Also in your packets, there was several minutes from meetings.
I need you guys to approve this for your meetings and payroll.
If you have had an opportunity to read through the minutes on it, we need to have those approved.
I move they be approved as written.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same. Also in the packets were several payroll schedules, accounts payable schedule,
And your meetings.
and our scheduled meetings on it.
All right.
We need a motion to have these approved either individual or as a group.
I make a motion that we approve them as a whole.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same. to do this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so, yeah.
Also, Jen has requested that we make a motion and a second on the longevity pay date, and it is November the 21st. Total out of county general is $57,250, and there is money sufficient to do it. Need a motion for the longevity pay date?
I so move.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor of the motion signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same. Should we? Okay. You say it out loud. Janet also has some additional information.
We have to adopt our budget at the next meeting, as you all know. So, do you want to hold a special meeting, or are we going to discuss what we're going to do about wages today? But there needs to be, I think, a decision made so that I can get the appropriate numbers in for the budget for 2018 to adopt the next council meeting in October.
I think we need to let you know that right now.
Before you do that, can I say something? You can take the 3% from each of them, they're not gonna do the job duties, so it's on you for the 911, putting stuff into the computer and finding a director for less than that 3% or $10,000. So they'll go back to their old job duties.
Thank you. We're going to enter into the, before we get started into the budget on it, anybody in the general audience have anything to say, comments?
I do. Back my tongue long enough. I don't understand the whole concept. Okay, I'm sitting in your position. We had a job eliminated earlier this year, a big chunk of how we do IT and how we do our computer systems and work in the building. And you all know that was out of our control, the sheriff's control. We separated those job duties, combining the two people. We didn't replace anybody. We split those up. We assigned those duties and asked these people to take on additional responsibilities, which they didn't have to do. That's why it was refactored. I don't understand why everybody keeps calling it a raise when it's a refactored job that these people took on. We all talk about commitment to the county and making sure that everybody feels needed and feels welcome. It doesn't feel like that. I don't understand the concept. It's just a proven probation job that didn't affect anything. But we can't take a 911 job out of 911 money and pay it like we have the past 16 or 20 years when Scott Jones was doing it. That wasn't us. We didn't choose that. We had to overcome the DAP to do that. That's what it was. It was voted in. I granted there was an error. So why that wasn't refactored and said, hey, we caught this error, we need to address it this meeting, can you come here with the new figures, this is what I found, make sure it's correct. And go about it. And then everybody would be doing their job duties, we'd be getting state 911 money next year. Come next year, we're gonna lose a lot of money. And this morale just keeps driving in the dirt. And now we're gonna have to keep replacing people because morale keeps going in the dirt. Not only in our office, but it affects every county employee out there, not just our department. So I don't sit in your shoes, I don't want to, but I can't sit back here and understand the reason for what's going on in the process. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions, comments? We call the meeting back into order on it, and kind of slow down a little bit till Thor gets back on it. Was it last week we met with the DLGF? Last week, myself, Jana, and Jana's deputy, met with the Department of Local Government Finance on it, went through our 2018 budget projections on it. She recommended several ways to go with our 2018 budget on there. Though I'm talking about our meeting with DLGF on it. One thing she did recommend on it that we stay very close to our 2017 budget. On there, she talked about cash balance at the end of the year on it. She would like to see $1 million in our cash on it. Staying with the 2017 would bring us down to about 800,000 cash balance on it. With the changes of FICA and some of the federal taxes on it, that's an additional expense that brings us down around, would you say 700,000, 600,000? Around 600,000 cash balance at the end of 2018 on it, and that's not with any of our salary ordinance type positions on it. Anything you wish to add?
Well, it also doesn't include anything we have to cough up for.
It doesn't include any expenses we would have out of that money during the course of that period.
Cough up, yeah.
And it's a pretty brief summary of what that hour and 20-minute meeting was. You have anything you want to add to that, Thor?
Not knowing what you said when I was gone, but again, she recommended that our operating capital be a lot higher than what it is, and I know that we've had some struggles over the last couple of years. It's brought that capital down, and this is, I guess, their advice and their plan on how that we need to recover that.
Jana, you have anything you want to add to it? So we need to do our first option on salary ordinance? Or do we need to do anything through the budget part and cutting?
I think at this point, we just need to make a decision on wages.
Hmm.
I think just make a decision on, at this point, I think you guys just need to decide on what you want to do for wages and go from there. And then, you know what, if they come back and say you need to cut, which I don't foresee that happening.
Okay. And in some of our conversations one-on-one with fellow council members, we have several ideas about the salary ordinances on it. Thor, would you like to elaborate a little bit on what some of your ideas are?
Well, I just have one idea, and my suggestion would be to give a $1,730 raise across the board to all county employees. And the way that I come up with that number, or the way that that number would factor in, would be then that $1,730 would be added to everyone's salary or everyone's rate of compensation, and then divided out over 27 pay periods rather than the 26. And I've got a printout that Jana helped me with that would actually show what that would do to everybody, each position's paycheck, or position salary or compensation. Also, that number would keep us at our minimal amount as far as county general. I think it would account for about $140,000 or right in that range as far as funds that it would cost us out of the county general, being that a lot of the positions are paid for by grants or user fees or other means.
There was also some conversation about the total amount of that money divided out by per employee. You want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Janice shared with me that there's 176 county employees that would fall into that structure as far as our normal payroll. Our normal payroll for a pay period is approximately $305,000. Take that 305,000 and divide it out by the 176, that's how I came up with 1730. And what that's doing is, this raise that we're looking at giving county employees is not an evaluation on their performance, it's not performance raise, it's not, it's cost of living raise. And I feel that the cost of living raise for all county employees should be the same. So I think it should be across the board raise rather than just saying, okay, we're going to give everybody that extra 27th paycheck, so they're not having that time frame someplace where if we divide their rate now out over 27, where they're getting less per check. This number of $1,730 would essentially put everybody real close to that number, with 132 of the 176 employees actually getting a little bit more per check, even when we divide it out over the 27 paychecks. And that would leave 44 people that would be on the other side of it, and those 44 are the higher paid, the upper end of it, that would have a little bit less per check, but essentially they're still receiving a $1,730 raise. It's just a flat line. It's a cost of living raise, or a raise for all employees, rather than doing a percent on giving an extra paycheck. It's the same amount as what we would spend if we did an entire extra payroll.
I thought it was more. It came out to be more for county general.
You shared with me you thought it was, but when I questioned you on it, you said, well, let me look at it again, and I don't know how it could be, and you didn't get back with me and tell me that it was more. So if you've got something...
Well, I've been a little busy since Friday.
I get that. I get that, but I don't understand how it could be. So that's why I was waiting to hear from you. But that's my
Well, and
proposal.
I wish Nathan was here, because he looked at it as well, and he said it would cost more as well. I can't exactly explain how, but yes, it does come out to costing about $40,000 more to fund that $1,730 for everyone. It's just, I did an Excel spreadsheet, and it just comes out, bottom line, $40,000 more, roughly. Just for county general.
So rather than 140, we're talking 180?
What's your theory on why that's that way? Because I mean, I don't understand how that can happen, or how that can be. So what's the theory for it?
Again, say someone makes $35,000, they're people, okay. It almost evens out, but people that only make like $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500, they're making more. Like say you put that $1,730 in the last pay, okay? That's still more than what their biweekly pay is. Even though you're spreading it out, it's still going to cost more than just funding their 27th pay. Does that make sense? Again, Nathan did an Excel spreadsheet. We both looked at it, and it will cost more.
So, in theory, what you're telling me is that the 44 people that are below the line, or above the line, there's more of a majority of those people who are being paid by means other than the county general. That would make sense, if that's what you're telling me.
So just the 27th paycheck, what's that out of county general?
$141,000.
So, in comparison with what Thor has presented on it, and straight up 27th paychecks with no pay raise per employee on it, what would that figure? And you have a ballpark?
To fund the 27th pay for everyone? That's the 141,000.
141. And Thor's proposal?
Was
be
180,
180.
right? That's what you said.
I still don't understand how that can be accurate. I don't know if that's accurate information. And I don't think Jana's sure that it's accurate information.
Well, because maybe this is the explanation, because you took the whole payroll, and that also does include part-time employees, but we just did 176 salaried full-time employees. Because you asked just for the number of the whole payroll, and I gave that to you, but that
Okay.
does include part-time employees.
Okay, well
So
then
maybe that helps out a little bit.
So what would that number be?
Without part-time people?
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head.
The other council members have any additional comments or input? Anybody from the general audience have?
This happens what, less than half 12 years ago?
Happens every 11.
How many?
11.
11. So it's not something that reoccurs all the time, it has to be addressed. Is there any way to see for the future that when this happens again, is it, like, how many years is it gonna pass before this rolls again? Up to every 11? Okay, thank you. So I guess 27 pay every 11 years is something that we have to look forward to.
Somebody else will be making the decisions at that point.
Just put my 2 cents in. I've been here a long time, and I completely agree and understand that every year we get a raise. I've been through the recession, and that's fine. I understand that completely. I guess my concern is ask employees to work next year with a lower pay scale for at least the 44 or the part-time people. We've never done that in the 21 years out. We always at least made the same that they did the year before. So that's my 2 cents. I don't speak for everybody, but I'm realistic. I realize that not every year we're going to get paid increase. Sometimes they're difficult. So I would encourage you to look for the 27.
I think we've discussed it, I think we've been here long enough to know that there was a good 4 or 5 years that we got 0. And we worked through that, and we're still here. So I think the 27 pay is correct, and it's accurate, because I wouldn't want, because basically what the 44 people are doing that don't make that is they're funding the other people's actual make more money. Our guys' pay rate will go down. If it does, the 27 pay, around $90. I know a paycheck. $90 to $70 depending on the division you're in, a paycheck without the 27 pay. So, again,
It's anywhere from $7.80 to $11.62 per paycheck. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's substantial when you take into account somebody's family.
And that's, and for some, I've heard people on the council, and I'm not going to name names, but I keep hearing, people need to manage their money better. People just need to manage their money better next year. That's easy to say for some people who maybe only have 1 child or a couple of children, or maybe they're retired. So people like single mothers who have 4 children, we don't have other people to count on. That is our money. We're just asking that you fund that 27.
Well, the plan that I'm suggesting in your positions, it would fund the 27th pay. It would be funded.
Yeah, I like your thing. I think it's fair.
And Scott, I guess to address you is that, you're not going without a raise.
Well, I understand when this happens.
You're getting, you're getting $1,730 raise.
If the majority of the people get a raise and I don't, that's fine with me. I just want to make sure that, but, a lot of people in my office have been there at least 15 years or more, so they're on the higher end.
What positions are they, Scott?
So I have 2 health nurses, myself, both make $29 more. Again, I think what they're trying to say, though, the highway department, sheriff's department, health department, none of our funds are taken from salary part, it's not taken from the county general. When we take before earlier and asked for the increase from the part-time to full-time position, not only can we fund that position out of our levy, that's not county general, but also their full-time benefits too. It really doesn't affect that at all. So we can't just take the full number and divide it by the number of employees because it's different levies where that money comes out of. It's different locations. So it's hard to understand. It's very complicated, obviously. But I'm just saying, in the past, to be consistent, I don't know that too many employees have ever worked 1 year less than the next. They have, but we have, like you said, gone without raises before, and we completely understand that because we see other people in our community hurting, not having a job.
Would anybody disagree that this is a cost of living raise? Would anybody disagree that these raises aren't being considered or offered on merit or how somebody's performed?
Well, not a straight across the board raises and some performance raises. Performance raises we done 15 years ago. What's our cost of insurance going up next year? What's the percentage of that's going to affect the income for the county's employees based on the so-called 1730?
I think what was shared with us before is that the insurance, am I correct, that it's not going to be increased?
Are you going to factor the cost of the people paying insurance? We have to pay that the 27th time. So what's the cost? If the cost of insurance is going up, if you're going to speak about cost of living, you're going to factor the percentage of cost of the insurance raise from 17 to 18, because it is going to go up, correct? We know that for a fact.
No, I think it's staying the same, isn't it? The insurance for employees is staying the same.
Staying the same.
Staying the same. There's no increase in it.
Okay, but there's 27 pays of insurance, correct?
But the insurance
What's
is,
decided as far as wages, there's an extra, that's still taken out also.
just like with the wages though, whatever that total amount is per employee is going to be divided out by 27 instead of 26. So it's going to be the same amount, it's just going to be distributed differently, Jason.
Don't you only take 24 payments of insurance?
Yeah.
Anything additional, regardless whether it's 26 or 27 weeks or whatever, you only take 24.
Right, so that third paycheck would not have anything come out of it.
There's one pay schedule in there that is more than what your normal deductions are.
So next year, instead of having 2 paychecks that wouldn't have insurance taken out of it, there would be 3.
2.
It'd still be 2.
Still be 2.
You said you take it out of 24 now, though, and there's 27 checks next year. So
It'd be twice a month. So we have 3 months that have 3 paychecks. Those 3 months next
so
year.
3 paychecks that they wouldn't have the insurance amount
Right.
taken out of.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other discussion from general? Down to making a decision on how we should do the salary ordinance. Entertain any motions.
I'd make a motion that we give $1,730 raise to each employee across the board with the exception of council and commissioners. Well, I would say this, with the exception of council.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and second. Have any additional discussion? Does that work out for you? Those in favor of the motion signify by your right hand.
Wait a minute.
We've got discussion here.
Wait. I think we should be included in that.
I did.
You're making,
I did include you.
He did.
He amended his motion to include the commissioners.
Oh, you
Yes.
put it in and then.
I'll make my motion again. The motion is for a $1,730 raise for the county employees with the exception of the council members.
But
With the exception of the commissioners.
Okay, I withdrew that part
Yeah,
of it, unless you're telling me you want me to withdraw your part of it. I don't understand what you're saying, Tom.
We want ours withdrawn
Okay,
as well.
okay, that's what
You're
I wasn't
making
clear
us
on.
look bad, they say, hey, we're not gonna take our raise, but hey, commissioners are taking theirs.
No, I'm
No, we
not,
don't want the raise either.
my intent was not to make you look bad. My intent was to be
I
fair.
appreciate it, but that's the way it felt.
Well, you're right here, and you could speak up for it. My intent was, because we vote on it. We're the ones that vote on it. I'm not gonna vote on that kind of a raise for this position.
And we're the ones looking bad.
I'm lost. With all that's been commented on, would you repeat your motion, please?
Well, I kind of feel like I'm being put in a tough spot here on trying to make a motion on deciding on, Don, I know what you're saying, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, and now I feel like I'm being put on the spot. My intention is not to do that. I think that you guys deserve a raise for what you do. I mean, you're in here every day. You guys are putting in a lot of hours. I get that, and I think that the compensation needs to be made there, so we need to come up maybe with how we're going to compensate that if it's not at the 1,730 across the board raise.
I can only tell you, I'm happy with what I got. I don't need any more. I didn't take the job for the money. I'm happy. I won't speak for these guys. I'm perfectly fine with not getting more money. We can't make a decision sitting here, so.
I got one other question. What about the elected people? They're on their own? The people that's been elected on their salaries? How are you handling that?
I guess I don't understand your question.
Well, because they can budget whatever they want for themselves.
You said employees. What about the elected officials?
Elected officials can say, when they give you your budget, they can raise their pay whatever they want it raised.
I just wonder how you handling that?
Well,
I don't understand that.
I think like the clerk and the treasurer and the auditor and them, we doing anything for them for raises?
Well, I thought that's what my motion was.
We've always received the same as everyone else.
I was going to say, the
That's
same as all,
included in this.
same as all
That's
employees.
yeah.
The exception you're making is commissioners and council.
Right.
Everybody else is.
But it needs to be included in your motion that elected officials are
Elected,
treated the same as
okay, elected
employees.
officials, employees, et cetera.
well, they're county employees, but, okay.
I don't understand I don't understand the point of what we just discussed. I don't get it.
Make your motion to say all employees and the elected department heads, and with the exception of the council and commission, I'll clarify.
Part-time,
And part-time.
if we're gonna get nitty-picky.
So, in summary, Thor, do you wish to amend your motion for the $1,730 cross-COLA raise to include elected officials, part-time officials, and all county employees with the exception of commissioners and council? Does that sound right?
Part-time.
That's the part-time.
My motion would be for a $1,730 raise for all county employees and elected officials, not including part-time people, not including pay schedules that are mandated to us through the state for probation, not including any positions that we are mandated on what we are going to pay them as far as judges or prosecutor. And it would be the exception of the county council. And my motion would also be for a $500 increase in rate per person for the county commissioners.
We have an amended motion.
Amend my second from the last motion.
And we have an amended second. We have any additional discussion? Those in favor of the,
The question I guess I have, did that include, the part-time people are exempt, or are they going to be included?
Well, part-time people are going to be on an hourly rate.
Okay.
That's up to the office.
Okay, all right.
Need a second.
You guys do set the max for part-time wages.
Second.
okay, so you need it.
Second from him, and I'll second that.
Okay. With the amended motion from Thor, Kim rescinded his second on the original motion on it, and we need a second for the amended motion.
I'll second that.
We have a second to Kim. Now do we have any additional discussion? All those on council in
So
favor?
now the commissioners are included in the, at $500.
All right. We have a motion and a second. We've had discussion on it. All those in favor of the motion signify by your right hand. Those opposed, the same. Passes 5-1 with one absent. Do we need anything else with the budget? Chad, do you have anything additional with this morning's meeting?
No, sir.
Thor?
No.
Jim?
No.
Glenn?
No.
Kim? Neither do I. Anybody from the audience have any discussion we wish to input?
Okay, so just for clarification, we are getting an additional $1,730 for the entire year, and you're adding that to our current salary and then dividing it by 27. Okay, so you could still be bringing home potentially less than what you do now per pay period, correct?
Yes.
So it appears that we are making less per paycheck.
Yeah.
So if you are an hourly person, even if you are full-time, you are making less per hour. And if you are, say, in the highway department, where your pay varies depending on which job you actually do, you're going to make less over the entire year because you are paid less per hour. Are we all in agreement? We are all in agreement, but I'm not sure that you guys are completely understanding how that directly affects all of us as individuals.
What's the average income based on? There's a fine
The
line
part-time
where
hourly
either
rate has not been established
ahead
yet.
or behind.
No,
There's
we
gotta
have
be a
time
certain
for that.
wage that,
What's that?
We have time
so
for that unless
anybody
you
below
want to do it
46
today.
is gonna gain. Anybody at 46 is gonna maintain. 46 and over is gonna lose money from here on out, for 2018. Yes, your hourly goes down, so it affects your overtime. And holiday pay. Pension. Yep. Yep. So in the long run, you're
I don't know if you can, I don't know if you're looking at it right, because you're still receiving.
We all are.
for the last 2 or 3 months. This way.
We're looking at our paycheck.
He did give you guys a chance to speak, actually.
And
You know, next year, when that same amount is taken back and divided out over 26, is everybody going to be in an uproar then because you're getting all that much more money per check? I'm sorry?
Unless you're gonna add cost of living to that also.
And they can't, right, and they can't predict what next year's going to be. But that money that you're getting, that extra $1,730 that you're going to be compensated for next year, a raise of $1,730.
But you do agree that 44 people or so will not be compensated. They'll actually be making less per hour per salary. Is that correct?
Everybody is getting $1,730.
Everybody is getting $1,730. So you take that on another pay scale, that lowers everything over that $46,000 budget. That's what everybody's looking at. Everybody's looking out for themselves, which they should be. That's what we're getting at. And what happened 11 years ago, this came up in, I believe, you know, if you guys wanted, what happened then? It was paid.
They
It was
funded
funded.
it towards the end of the year.
So I guess I'm not sure what the difference is between this year and 11 years ago, because I think you guys were taken by surprise on it after the budget was already done, and you still decided to fund it. I guess that's my concern, is looking out for the people that make above that 46,000, is they're going down. If it was 27 paid and it was even, it wouldn't, then it would be fine, because everybody would be maintaining, everybody's maintaining.
17. That's the max per hour.
That's the max, and it runs from
Just a
what,
concern, and I think
13?
what Dan's voicing
Is it
Wherever to minimum wage to that.
17 is the max? We need to establish a part-time hourly rate within our salary ordinance, a range.
It's at 17 now?
17 is max now.
How many people do we have that are at the max amount?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to.
I don't think we're up there with part-time help, are we?
Well, I think if there's anybody that's at the maximum amount, I think we need to give the department heads the ability to compensate those positions. So if we've got it capped at 17, then we should probably raise that cap.
What range are you looking at? $15 to $19, what's the federal standard for minimum wage? Hourly rate?
It's pretty low.
It's not that high?
Yeah, it's
Compared
not
to
even
that.
close to that.
12 to 19?
I make a motion that we leave the part-time hourly rate at 17.
Max. We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion, second, any additional discussion? Those in favor of the motion signify by your right hand. Opposed, the same. Anybody have any addition? Meeting's adjourned.
If anybody wants to see how that affects their position, I have the printout up here. If you want to come up, I'll talk to you about it.